audience. She'll be talking about why she loves to travel, having traveled to countries as far away as Mongolia. Her speech is titled Airplane Notes and completes her work in the Competent Communicator Manual. Julie Marzloff, Airplane Notes.
We all do this a little differently. How do you do this? How do you get to this mental space? Some of you may take a long hike, yet others may gaze out at the river while fishing. Some of you sew, and others of you swim, and some sail down to the earth when paragliding. And I bet even others of you get to this mental space by crafting a speech. What mental space am I talking about? I'm talking about the space that you give yourself, the space that you give yourself for self-reflection and identifying what is most important and meaningful to you. For me, it's very easy for me to get to this space when I travel. I naturally go to this space, especially when I am coming back from a trip. When I travel to other countries, it changes my perspective. And when I'm on that airplane going back home, and I'm strapped into that budget airline ticket, and I'm massaging my sore neck, and I'm drinking a ginger ale, I will do some writing. And what I'm doing at that time is reflecting on my journey and how it's going to affect my ongoing life. I've come to refer to these notes as airplane notes. Let me tell you about the first time that I wrote my airplane notes. It was 1 week before my trip back home. I was in Cusco, Peru for my very first time, and I was walking across the Tupac Amaru Plaza, past the statue of the famous Inca warrior. And it was amazing. All of a sudden I got this powerful feeling. It was a bit like deja vu. I suddenly wanted to live in Cusco. I had never before had a feeling like this before. I never considered, oh, I want to live overseas, or what country would I want to live in. It just struck me just like that. I just wanted to live in Cusco, Peru. So one week later, when I was in my airplane seat going back, all strapped in, I crafted my first set of airplane notes. These were very goal-directed. I had about 25 items on that list about what I needed to do so that I could get back to Cusco the following year. There were things like apply for a leave of absence, sell my car, move into a cheaper apartment to save rent, update my passport, things like that. So many of my airplane notes aren't as big as this. They're not as grand, but they do tend to have several different themes. One of the themes is, what do I want to bring back from my trip? How am I going to apply that to my ongoing life? Another is about friendship and relationships. Which of my friendships are very important to me and why? And another area is, what am I thankful for? What do I appreciate back home in the United States that I hadn't considered before traveling? Let me give you some examples of this. The first one, bringing something back from the country that I just visited. I like to travel in Latin America, and I feel that people experience their daily lives a little bit differently than they do here in the United States. People tend to have more joy in their daily life. Here in the United States, we tend to be a little bit more serious, a little more work-focused, and we keep all our fun for the weekend. But there, people tend to have more joy in their everyday. And you'll notice this just in how they play music all the time, everywhere. And I tend to associate music with downtime and having fun. And something else, it seems like everybody knows how to dance there. So one time when I was coming back from a trip, I decided I would like to have more dance opportunities in my life. The thing is, sometimes it's hard to find a dance partner. So what I decided to do was become a Zumba dance instructor, so that's dance exercise. So I could dance and have fun and also dance with 25 other people. I thought that would be a way to bring a lot of joy into my life. Okay, something else, relationships. I tend to think a lot about other people when I'm traveling. I often travel by myself. Most of the time I'm by myself. So some of the time I do get lonely. And I play this little game with myself. I think, who would I like to be with me right now? Sometimes I think, I wish the Toastmasters were with me. That would be really a lot of fun. But of course, if I could have the people with me, I would have them with me there, but it's not always possible. I meet many people when I travel, though, and that is very special times, very exciting when you meet a new friend who lives hundreds, thousands of miles away from you. I'm going to tell you about my friend Damaris that I met a couple of years ago. I was in the Canadian Rockies. I was in Jasper National Park, and I had sprained my ankle, so I wasn't able to camp, so I decided to stay at this hostel called Beauty Creek Hostel. And she was there with her boyfriend, and maybe there were 4 other people there. Well, we struck up our friendship that night, and then we became Facebook friends, and it doesn't seem like much, but 1 year later, I realized I was going to be in her part of the world by Bilbao, Spain, and I asked her, would I be able to visit with you? And she said, sure. And she picked me up from the airport. She let me stay at her house. She took me to her work and introduced me to all her little kids. She worked with preschool kids. She introduced me to her friends. She took me to festivals. She took me out to eat. She wouldn't let me pay for things. She was amazing. She basically treated me like a celebrity. And when somebody invites you into their lives like that and just opens it up so much with so much trust and generosity, it does something. It changes you, and it makes me think, what could I do to be a better world citizen? What could I do to be a better friend? It was just a really amazing time. Now the other area, appreciating my life more. This was something that happened when I was in Nicaragua on my last trip. I was sitting down on the bus, and there was a seat right next to me. And suddenly, this draggled man started walking down the aisle, eyeing that seat. And this was an ungenerous thought of mine. I didn't want him to sit next to me. He had a catheter on the outside of his pants, so it was a clear tube, and I could see the urine running through it. It was kind of looped over his belt loop, and it was tied with rubber bands and some string to a plastic bag. And this was not a medical quality bag. This was more like a Safeway bag. And he sat next to me, and I was horrified, thinking that I would suddenly be sitting in somebody else's urine.
Oh.
Now that's another set of airplane notes about my rather unkind feeling, but I was concerned about sitting in someone else's urine. What did I come away with this from part of my self-reflection was that I never have to be in a situation like that. I grew up, I'm from a country that has a large middle class, so I don't have to suffer that type of problem. I know that we have problems here in the United States with our healthcare system, and it's expensive, and health insurance is a problem, but still, it's much better than what I see in a lot of countries that I travel to. Something I don't really think about that much, and do I appreciate it when I see what other people have in their lives, the challenges that they have. So I travel because it shapes me, and it teaches me, and it guides me. I learn so much from my travels. It changes my perspective and helps me identify what's meaningful to me. And you all can do this as well. When you leave the well-worn path of your daily life, you are going to encounter surprises along the way. Now, some of these surprises will invite you to think, and others of these surprises will force you to think. But these experiences will be growing experiences for you. Now, you don't need to travel like I do. You don't need to travel to a faraway land. You can just plan a trip that's not too far away. And even in that activity, when you plan a trip for yourself, you're identifying what you think is important. So you take the trip, and when you come back, you'll be able to do an evaluation and think, did I do that? Was I successful? Did I select things that were valuable and important to me? And also, when you're away, when you're far away, and you see your life from afar, you might have a different perspective on it. You might see something differently about your daily life that helps you grow. Now, as for me, I have my passport updated and ready to go. I have some dreams for my next trip, and I can't wait to see what my next series of airplane notes is going to bring me. For me, traveling is not just about the discovery of new places and new people and new cultures, because of course it is all of that, but maybe even more importantly, it's the discovery within myself. Thank you.